What will bring about the end of the world? Climate change? Or perhaps another pandemic? Maybe it will be an AI rebellion or aliens. Today's existential fears seem something that came straight out of Pacific Rim or 2001: A Space Odyssey. And as much fun as kaijus fighting each other seems on the screen, it can be terrifying when contemplated in reality. It's no wonder then that we are increasingly returning to the escapism these movies offer and looking for hope. How did the characters survive these circumstances? Perhaps they were brave, or perhaps the event horizon isn't as petrifying as it looks from our vantage point. Let's explore survival in science fiction and see for ourselves, shall we? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave.
2001: A Space Odyssey, a film that remains relevant even a decade after its release, as shown by the use of its iconic start on Robbie's Barbie. 2001: A Space Odyssey is about evolution, and no one can separate evolution from survival. In this movie, astronauts go to investigate a monolith in space, and it's all hunky-dory until their AI, HAL, malfunctions, either due to a paradox or emotional breakdown, and decides it's best to unalive everyone on board, which some claim was an act of self-defense while the other says was pure murder. A little like Ultron in the MCU for us New Age kids. One scientist, Dr. Bowman, manages to get control of the ship back from HAL, but is then sucked into a void of light. He ends up in a French-looking room where he ages rapidly, each shot showing him older and older until he's at death's door. Hello, Hades! Yet before he can die, another monolith appears at the end of his bed, touching which he gets transported to the outskirts of Earth in space as a giant fetus. Yep, this movie's end is as confusing as that of Interstellar. And just like that pivotal space movie, this one explores themes of knowledge, survival against uneven odds, and what lies beyond survival. Another similarity between the two sci-fi movies is that we don't really get a clear answer about the last question. This can lead many to question why 2001 is even a part of this list. For this movie, the critical response seems divided, with some calling it boring while others saying the filmmaking, art, score, and philosophy of the movies makes it the greatest science fiction movie ever, which has used science like none before. Yet our focus lies on survival in the movie. Camera work that conveys anxiety, this movie shows how what we have created can turn against us. It's different from other movies that attempt the same in that HAL knows the ship better than the astronauts. HAL cannot be defeated by knowledge or creativity, but by dismantling him to his bare bones, which ultimately reveal a sinister truth. Perhaps in space, that's what survival is. The chance to break down your opponent and ascend to something better. Oh wait, that last bit is just evolution. Interstellar. When speaking of evolution, how can we not mention this movie? In a world facing the efforts of climate change and propaganda that has turned its eyes away from space, one scientist with his crew and his daughter become pivotal to the survival of humanity. At great personal cost, they find our species a new home away from our dying planet. Our protagonist takes on a mission where hours for him in space will mean days, if not years, for the family he left on Earth, notably his 2 children. Yet he does so in hopes of finding a new planet for humans to live on, something others have aspired to do before him. Yet Interstellar's ending requires a rewatch or two, and the movie has critics divided on whether it is like watching paint dry or another phenomenal movie. But when it comes to survival, the movie makes some statements. Survival is costly, and even time means nothing to it. It is about finding people and projects you love and dedicating to them. It is about understanding the world and the people we love, and going on even when all hope is lost. And finally, it is about respecting those who laid the path for us to follow. Survival is a group effort, something many lone warrior space operas tend to forget. Solaris. When talking about a lone wolf in space and a crew, Solaris is bound to crop up. A science fiction movie about a psychologist and hallucinations in space that ultimately questions whether any of our relationships are real, and eventually leaves us wondering if anything we perceive as real or filtered through the lens of our perception is no easy feat to make. Yet it's been called brilliant, enigmatic, and one of the best science fiction movies ever made. Yes, some claim that the movie is not very entertaining, but others have said it restored their faith in the sci-fi genre. So I guess it's an acquired taste like almost every other science fiction work out there. And when it comes to survival, nothing hits harder than Solaris, except perhaps The Martian. Solaris talks of what reality is and what life itself is. Is someone constructed from our memories of them not alive? As Vision asked. What is grief but love persisting? And Solaris teaches us that when an alien planet uses our memories to unearth trauma and give us solace, it returns to us the people and places we love. In Solaris, the survival is against grief and our notions of reality, and the characters survive by embracing the new planet they are on and what it offers, while simultaneously using the brain and training of a psychologist to stay grounded in reality. A sci-fi movie on mental health, and in the 90s. Who would have thought?
Wait a minute, this movement.
Alien, Ridley Scott's classic. Who hasn't heard of it? Especially after Peter Fanboy Parker refers to it in the MCU. The plot is simple, straightforward horror. Evil corporation sends astronauts in the space tug Nostromo into the jaws of depth with the wrong information to get an alien species, the xenomorph, on Earth to study it. The creature kills most of the crew until the last one standing uses creativity and tools to kill it and survive. It's like 2001: A Space Odyssey without the timey-wimey end. This simple plot is adored by fans. Themes of consent, greed, whether human life is valuable to corporates, and of course survival are dominant in the movie. The movie shows humans can either end other humans or humans can be the reason we survive. In Alien, survival is recognizing that some beasts you can't beat with strength. Sometimes we have to use creativity and take risks, like our ancestors did with predators on Earth. Tools and ingenuity are our best assets. Wonder if that is alluding to a technology solution to our problems or saying we need to return to nature? Let us know in the comments. Apollo 13. Just as the 60s were known for the space race, it seems the 90s must be known for sci-fi movies. Apollo 13, a movie that brings real life to reels, combines these two eras and shows us what went wrong when an oxygen tank exploded on the Apollo 13 craft to the moon. Yes, that moon landing. One small step, a giant leap. That one. A well-loved movie, survival in this movie is inspired by real events. While in reality, survival was the team working together using NASA-approved protocols as far as possible. In the dramatized version, it is once again one man saving his crew. What's your obsession with space westerns, Hollywood? Survival in space means staying strong, not panicking, and thinking on your feet. Pretty simple, huh? Unless, of course, your hormonal cocktail is screaming "flee" all over space. And one movie that shows us how to zen that cocktail away?
If we mess up the Earth gravity assist, we die.
The Martian. A man stuck on Mars might seem like another lone wolf movie, but The Martian is a tale of creativity and human solidarity. Again, Ridley Scott shines bright like a diamond in adapting this movie. The plot, though futuristic, is simple. A single man is stranded on Mars with no long-term survival supplies. This story makes us cling to the edge of our seats wondering how he will survive and will he ever get home. This fan favorite provides a simple answer: human creativity coupled with science and strong social bonds. I mean, come on, who else would have thought of using human waste to grow potatoes on Mars? And who would have decided that using Earth's gravity is a good idea to slingshot a space vessel home from Mars? And I don't know about you, but when I think of humans as a cold species, I am reminded that in one of our most beloved pieces of media, a space crew decides to turn back to pick up a stranded mate despite not having enough fuel. Stupid, but they make it work. Humans, man, humans. Pandora. Another movie that shows us exactly how awesome we can be as a species, or how bad. In this movie, the space crew gets affected by Pandora, a disease that causes paranoia and hallucinations. Our protagonist, Bauer, wakes up with amnesia from hypersleep and finds the crew of his ship gone. To figure things out, he wakes up Peyton. The two find other survivors, including some people who have mutated to cannibalistic monsters. Eventually, it is revealed that Peyton is actually Gallo, who had gone insane on learning Earth was destroyed. Defeating him on accident, Nadia and Bauer escape the ship along with more than 100 survivors in hypersleep to Tanis, the new Earth. While survival in this future classic is accidental at the end, it is actually a product of careful examination of a situation. The message is simple: know your environment. A person who doesn't know what's going on can easily fall prey to traps, but someone in the know can win even against an onset of paranoia. And the scariest message? All these crew members could have survived and made a home in Tanis over 8 centuries ago, if they had just been in the know that they had reached their destination. Do not become so focused on what you have lost that you lose sight of what is ahead of you, young Paladin. Moving on. Gravity. This movie pulled 7 Academy Awards, and that, my guy, is no easy feat. It is simply one woman's driving journey to get back home. Stuck alone in space after Russians, why is it always the Russians in Hollywood, eh? Destroy a satellite. Sandra Bullock's character, Stone, and her superior have to somehow make it back to the International Space Station. In doing so, the superior dies. Stone, the sole survivor of her mission, is shown like a fetus in the ISS escape pod. A woman who loved mindlessly driving around now has to take back control of the wheel. In a show of creativity and perseverance, she makes it back home in an escape pod from a burning Chinese space station hurtling towards Earth. Yet it is not her emotional distance or even her perseverance alone that got her home. It is hope and determination. Hope that she got when she heard a Greenlander Inuit. Hope given her by subconscious in the form of her superior. No more driving. It's time to go home. This fan favorite shows us what we can achieve with our eyes on the goal. We just have to have hope and creativity as well as the will to survive. When we honor others' sacrifices for us, we can always get home in the end, just like Stone did. And when we do, same as Stone, suddenly life seems so much better than aimlessly surviving. And Gravity is not alone to explore this idea of living versus surviving. A love story at its heart, this sci-fi movie takes the idea of living versus surviving and explores a key element: loneliness versus company and community. How far would you go for love? And to have someone to share your life with? Passenger questions this when Jim is the only human awake, apart from an android bartender played by the awesome Michael Sheen, on a ship which will take his entire lifetime to reach its destination and wake others. Eventually he finds a woman and ruins her chances at life by waking her up. When Aurora, interesting choice of name there, learns about this, she is furious. Like, dude technically took away her chance at life, so I getcha, girl. But then they learn that the ship is malfunctioning and Jim almost sacrifices himself to save everyone, and when given the chance to go back into hibernation, Aurora chooses to stay with Jim instead. Ah, love. The movie that fans have called beautiful and haunting, Passengers shows us what is important. Community. Jim, while selfish, was motivated by the need to have someone to share life with, a life he was willing to end to save others. Complex characters that we hate and we love. Survival in Passengers is both psychological and physical. Surviving the malfunctioning ship requires excellent problem-solving skills and a will to do whatever it takes. Endgame style to save others, yes, but surviving being the only one awake on a ship destined to another planet, having voluntarily left an Earth that is perfectly inhabitable, with no friend even except an android bartender, reminds us no man is an island, and sometimes all we need is a hand to hold. Life. And this movie shows us how the wrong hand to hold can lead to doomsday. Life is not a mainstream blockbuster despite starring A-listers like Ryan Reynolds. No, sir. In this movie, an alien life form is found. It turns to feed on humans to live. The 2 surviving scientists decided one will lure the creature into space and the other will go up to Earth to warn our folks there. Debris hits the escaping pods and places are swapped. Alien host David ends up in Earth and despite his protests is rescued. What will happen to Earth and humanity now? Life is not about survival because the ending hints that Calvin, the creature, will eat everyone. It is about the choices made for survival. David and Miranda were ready to kill a creature they had named to survive and make sure humanity survives. Life is about entropy and how far is too far. It questions what happens when self-sacrifice goes wrong. When we as a community rush to help someone without knowing how to help them. What does it lead to then? Survival in life takes us back to what previous movies have taught us. Community, creativity, and knowledge are essential if we are to battle what the future holds. Whether it is climate change or some future version of ChatGPT or even another pandemic, even if it's aliens, we say to stay together and one step ahead. Or do we? The Cloverfield Paradox. Monsters across space and time sound interesting, but them as a metaphor for big oil? Mamma mia! This is a franchise movie that redefined everything in universe. To put in simple terms, the plot is that two universes collide and we see familiar characters who have made different choices. Ava, in one universe, picks the needs of the many, going to space to help solve the energy crisis, over the needs of the few, her relationship. In another universe, where her kids didn't die, she chose herself. And both did great things, and yet neither could stop the crisis. Because sometimes we can't be one step ahead. All we can do is the good we feel capable of. In one universe, someone chooses their country or even their planet over another. And in another, they pick the needs of the few. But in the Cloverfield Paradox, when these two universes collide, the team is tested in their bid for survival, not knowing something worse awaits them at home. A movie that questions what is right while showing us kaiju is like Pacific Rim meets Star Wars, and survival here is shown to be a cause and effect type of scenario. It is all upon our choices and there is no right choice. No matter what we do, someone dies. The question is, who do we sacrifice and how do we justify that? And yet on a smaller level, the characters survive by working together and adapting to the circumstances they find themselves in. After all, the film does say, do the best you can and maybe don't mess with the things beyond your understanding just because of greed. Which leads us back to the idea of how humans can either save us or doom us.
Intrigued me. Why are you here?
The Spaceman. And sci-fi continues to wonder which side will humanity eventually end on, even in 2024. And the conclusion it reaches? A very zen one. Everything is connected and we eventually choose love. The Spaceman is not a tale where there is an apocalypse or a life and death situation. Akin to The Passengers, it is a love story and a journey of self-actualization. Stuck alone in space, our hero, played by Sandler, enters the Chopra Cloud, a space event, with Hanus, an imaginary spider therapist, to see that everything is connected and he hasn't been there for his wife. He returns to human-manned areas and asks for another chance from her, which he gets. True love. My heart can't take it. The Spaceman moves away from questioning how we will survive doomsday to tell us how to survive the everyday. With love, compassion, by being there for others. But not running away from our fears and instead facing them, growing from our trauma. Sandler's characters ran as far as he could to outer space to learn this. A marvelous review. At the end of the day, all these movies take us away from war and isolation to togetherness and humanity. With Dune 2 on the horizon, these become important messages for the science fiction community to remember. Classics like this drive home the essential point: space is beautiful, but it's better if you have a home and people to return to. For all that it's called the geeks genre, who would have thought that sci-fi would say, #live life love? And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.